Howdy, Michael, the Mercedes guy here, and today I'm going to show you how to service your instrument cluster on your 108, 109, and 114, 115 that have this style of cluster. So first I like getting rid of the steering wheel. You can just peel off your horn pad. And I like a good old trusty impact wrench. And I'm going to take a peek in here and see if the scribe mark on the end of the steering shaft coincides with the scribe mark on the hub, and it does. So I'll be able to put this back, the steering wheel back on the shaft exactly where it came off. Now, these clusters can be a bit of a problem pulling out because the speedometer cable is just so long and there's just not quite enough room. Now, on your 114, 115 cars, you gotta pull up this mat and I'm gonna shine a light on it here so we can see. And I can see the speedometer cable right here. And there's a clip right there that I've got to cut. Okay, I cut that clip. That gives me a lot more length to my speedometer cable. However, on other models, the speedometer cable will actually pass through the firewall and down. In which case, there's a little bracket off the engine that also has a clip holding the speedometer cable. And if you can't get enough room to pull a cluster backwards, then you want to also cut that clip that's in the engine compartment. So I like my trusty little hook tools, and you want to carefully pull it out. And once you get the cluster out, I'm going to grab a cluster here that I already have out. Once you get the cluster out far enough, you can reach in here and unscrew the speedo cable. You can pull off the wiring pigtail. And also, let's see if we can see it. Also, the oil pressure hose. Now, before I get that cluster out, I'm going to do some protection. So we're going to protect that wood surface right there. If you don't protect that wood surface and you pull a cluster out and it drops down, this right here is going to scratch the wood. So you can use cardboard, or you can use a towel like I'm using. You want to be sure and get it up under there, so when you pull this out, it's not against the wood. Now, before you start messing with removing the pigtail, disconnect the negative cable off your battery, and then pull off the pigtail, and then in here we have our oil pressure line. it's a 10, but the actual gauge has a 13. You never want to just use the 10 to break the line loose, because you can risk breaking the gauge. So you put your 13 on, and then the 10, and then you pull the wrenches to each other, like so. Then you can go ahead and use the 10 to remove the pressure line. This is your typical 114, 115, 108 cluster. And the problem with these is that annoying rattle. That one's still solid. This one, the glass is loose. So, I want to lay down some protection here and disassemble this. The speedometer head comes out first. To do that, you need to pop those 3 bulbs out, and then this one. Now, while I'm using a speed method of removing these screws, you would never use this to reinstall, and I'll show you why. And that is because they go into plastic, and if you put too much torque on it, it'll just break this plastic off. And I can actually see a crack in it already. So we're going to go ahead and finish the disassembly here. As you can see, a common problem. That little guy has come off of its location here in the gauges. We'll remedy that. So, that is a little bit problematic. Somebody has put in the wrong size screw. Okay, so while you have your cluster disassembled, you want to test all these bulbs, including the ones you removed. Then, for the rattle, and this is a problem with this design. This is a retainer that holds the glass in, and it goes underneath plastic tabs all the way around. And what happens is that can work loose. So we're going to retighten that a little bit. Now this one here, the reason it's rattling is because the plastic tabs have broken. So the way you remedy that, first off, remove the ring. Take the glass out, and note that the glass is curved. It is, when you're looking at the glass, it's concave. So the bulge goes to the inside of the cluster. Now you can get a better view here of these broken tabs. There's 4 broken tabs, and on this side, and there's a broken one there, and boy, there's several broken ones. So you want to mix up some JB Weld. You want to clean your glass very well and install the glass. Don't worry about the face side. You can always clean that afterwards. Put your glass in. Put in your ring, your retainer ring, and just ever so carefully tighten it. And I say ever so carefully because right now you only have a few of them that work right. And you want to be real careful. You got to work back and forth with the pressure on to force. It's a clockwise movement to tighten the retainer ring. Okay, then you mix up some JB Weld and use a small screwdriver, and you put a dab of JB Weld right here. And another one over here. This is still working, that's still working, this one is still working, that's still good. But you may find that most of them are broken, in which case you want to put JB Weld on any broken tabs. Then, if you have several broken tabs, you're going to want to put some downward pressure on that ring. So you can use, whatever is handy, and let that sit overnight. And then the next day you can reassemble. You've tested your bulbs. I pulled off that potentiometer because I don't like those things. And I'll explain why. Yep. Let's get this turned around right. Okay. Problem with these potentiometers is they just quit working because the wound spring contacting surface in there gets corroded, and then you can't get any dash lights no matter how much you flip this back and forth. So what I prefer doing is taking a small piece of wire and jab it in that hole. Well, first you want to clean it, get it a little bit shiny. There you go, a little bit shiny. And do it for both. And put a jumper wire and solder it. That way, this will always work. Now also, a little dab of JB Weld here to put that button back on. And then you can reassemble. Again, you may want to let that sit overnight before you reassemble, so that it doesn't drop off while you're assembling the unit. And putting this back in to its proper locale right here is a little tricky. Sometimes I just chop that thing off because, of course, it's not used anymore. Then you can do your final reassembly. Sometimes you'll want to clean this surface. If you do so, be very careful. Use a tissue, not a paper towel. And just give it a little bit of breath and just a very careful wipe. And it goes in at an angle. And then it's just a reverse installation.